Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Monday, the 20th day of February, 2023. Well, we had a new moon last night at 11:05 p.m. my time. I'm on the Pacific I'm on the west coast of the United States, and so that's the time. I don't know if it's Pacific Standard Time or Daylight Time. I never can keep track of that unless I look. My mother used to do that for me, but she passed in 96. So I've just sort of been, freewheeling it ever since. Anyway, anyway, I just wish they would pick one instead of having the switch. I don't like it. I guess it's not very good for the body clock or anything. And I don't know. And I don't remember which one the doctors are recommending we choose. It's one or the other, but I don't remember. To me, it would make sense to spring forward and stay there, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's the other one they say is the better one for us. But anyway, we can go ahead and do this reading as if it's a new moon reading, because technically we're in the same 24-hour period as the new moon. In fact, we're still in the first 12 hours when I'm recording this. So if we want to, let's go ahead and do that today instead of a general influences one. Of course, I'll throw everything down and maybe it should be a general influences one, but we'll see. Let's see if we can do it from that perspective of setting one's intentions for the new moon and letting the cards and the runes sort of guide that process. You can do that also during a new moon ritual. You can use a tarot reading or a rune reading or whatever divination tool you want to use, a pendulum work, whatever, to define, what your intentions are for the coming lunar month. And don't forget, I said a lunar month, not calendar month. So anyhow, I don't think my tea is ready for me to drink yet. Let's go ahead and take... Oops, what did I just drop on the floor? I don't know. Oh, it's a pine cone. Okay, I'll get it back in a better place. You never know what's on the table. I don't always clean up afterwards. But anyway, let's take a look what the Elder Futhark rune is. Oh, well, Sewillow. Let your light shine. Sewillow is a rune of the sun. It's also the rune of the will, and it's basically made of Kenaz, forward and reverse, only skewed. And so Kenaz is really the light or the torch, and it's about letting higher awareness come in. It's about clarity, but it's with Sewillow, you're really invoking that type of clarity into your and into the exercise of the will. So there's the invocation part of it. Let me see if there's anything I'm forgetting here that's important. I don't think so. Well, I mean, it's an as above, so below rune, that's for sure. It's about having self-confidence. Maybe the intention, then the overall intention has to do with is being truthful and honest and trying to see things clearly, having self-confidence. But with its as above, so below nature, because again, you can see that reflected in the rune. You've got as above, so below, right? And you want to invoke that type of higher awareness into your lower awareness or ego awareness, so that you give the ego a little more truth to deal with. Ego doesn't really want to deal with truth. Ego wants to deal with perception. And I think that when you see Sewillow or Kenaz or any of those runes, it's really telling you that now's the time to face the truth about things and to let the light come in and the whole idea of sunlight's the best disinfectant. Well, letting the light come in and seeing what the real truth is, so you can then proceed from there, instead of having the clouds of illusion or delusion or lying or deception or whatever. There's so much of that right now. We need to understand what the truth really is, and in order that we can really interact effectively with our world. So let's go ahead and see what the Geomancy rune is. We'll go ahead and throw the 4 elemental runes down. And see what we come up with. We've got a single dot for, so an active influence for fire, that's water. Dual for water, a single dot for air. Okay, so we've got Fortuna Minor. Fortuna Major is Fortuna Minor's complement. So with Fortuna Minor, though, instead of the big windfall or the big major success or whatever, Fortuna Minor is going to be about baby steps or progression. So if we take the next, lunar month and we think about it in terms of awakening or clarity or finding out what the truth is, that may come in a series of progressions. It may not be, at one point you're going to see it all. If it was Fortuna Major, then I would say, yeah, it's probably going to be something that's going to happen and it's going to bring clarity. So there may be successive revelations over this next lunar month where you really begin to understand the truth of something in your life. And I think so the intention you would set then on the new moon right now is to allow that process to happen, and to not just allow it, but to invoke it, to make that part of your conscious awareness that I need to understand the truth. I need to look for the clarity here. Going within, meditating, doing whatever, trance work, whatever you have to do, doing more divination readings, whichever you like to do. Those kinds of things can give you insights into where you should be looking, where you should be, the areas you should be thinking more about. If it's home life, then there's some clarity that's needed on the home front. When at least in my area last night, when the moon went new in Pisces, it was in the 4th house, and so right at that moment, it's signaling that whatever your foundation is, whether it's your home or whether it's your values or beliefs or whatever, it's the foundational areas of life that really this new moon, you're going to retreat. You're going to, because Pisces, is very intuitive. They're in their head, they're in their mind, or in their soul, whichever you want to look at it. They're really people that reflect a lot. And now at 8 o'clock this morning, when I was looking at the chart, it was in the 12th house. And so, because the houses move, it all moves around the houses right throughout the 24-hour period. And so it was in the 12th house. I'm not sure here it's in the 9 o'clock hour now, if it's still there, or if it's in a different one. But at the time I looked at it there, that really added to the whole reflection aspect of things, to reflect on things. And so in other words, for this next lunar month, let's set the intention to reflect on what we're seeing and to challenge the beliefs we have, and to be sure that in fact that's what is really real. Or if maybe there's been some self-delusion going on, or some outside obstruction going on to what the actual truth is. Because it can be, we can do this to ourselves, refuse to see the truth of something, and then all of a sudden you really can't go any further. The door is closing on that, and now you're at that crossroads, if you will, where you have to make a decision what's real and what's not. So, but again, over the next lunar month, it seems to suggest with Fortuna Minor that this is going to come in a series of progressive revelations, and so we'll see. Well, we have with us here two cards from the court and one simply from the minor arcana from the suit of wands. And both of the swords cards from the court, one is the knight, one is the king, so they're going to be very dynamic. And again, you're looking at the idea of truth and understanding what the challenges are surrounding that. There may be a little bit of deception with the King of Swords, maybe someone who doesn't want you to really understand the truth. But then you come to the Three of Wands at the end, and I don't know. So maybe where you're kind of looking out there you've gone through the doorway into new experiences, and now you're waiting for your ship to come in, basically. So, or for the truth to be revealed, or for the new path to form, based on what you've been learning over the month. But let's talk about the Knight of Swords here. Swords is the air element. And so you're talking about the mental faculties. You're talking about fairness, justice, truth, honor, dignity, integrity, all of that. And the knight has all of those things. But here he's headed toward the past. If he was going the other direction, that'd be toward the future endeavors. But here, we need to figure out what's been going on. And so this could define the whole space. You can see the clouds are beginning to dissipate, so maybe the illusion is going away. But he's up there, but he's actually taking a stand against it. He's got his sword raised high, and you can see that he's going against the wind because the trees are leaning in the opposite direction. So he's going against the wind, against the clouds of illusion that have wanted to keep you in the dark. So maybe this is going to actually work out to be a new moon reading, and about pushing through to where you have some clarity about something that hasn't been clear, or some deception that's been taking place. And now you're like, oh boy, really? I didn't know that. It could be something like that. But here you have a guy who's a soldier. He's battle hardy. He engages in swift action. As you can see, he's moving very quickly to find out the truth. He's courageous. He's a lot of integrity. He accepts the challenges in front of him. And trust me, if you're breaking through some deception or lies or self-deception or whatever, you've got to be really brave about that. You might not like what you see. It might make you angry. It might make you depressed. It might make you sad. It may upset everything in your life to find out what's really going on. But on the other hand, if you've been suspecting that things have been a little off, and you suspect that things have not been, actually truthful, then none of this will come as any surprise. And so you can eagerly look toward the next lunar month and maybe even beyond that to discover what the real truth is. But again, it feels to me like with Fortuna Minor that this is going to come in baby steps. Then we have the king. Now, the king can be looked at in a couple of different ways. I do reversals in my own personal readings. I don't do them here. And because I like to sort of consider all of the ideas about whether it's forward or reverse. I want to talk about things in terms of their wholeness. And so you're looking at both the positive and negative aspects of self when you look at the cards in just the one direction, the forward direction or upright direction. But here you have the king. The clouds are a little different in this card. Here it's like they're blowing away. But here, you've still got some around him. I never trust the kings too much in these suits, although, he's analytical, he's an authority figure, he's powerful, logical, clever, he's kind of the boss of things, very authoritarian, or demands the respect, demands the honor, the dignity, the truth of things, except he doesn't hold his sword straight up and down the way the queen does. I trust her a little bit more. I think that, anytime you have somebody in a position of authority, that can go either way. They're either going to be a positive force in someone's life, or maybe not so much. Or maybe somewhere in between where you can't, you can trust them sometimes, but you can't always. And so why is the sword tilted? Is he trying to cover it? It's tilted toward the past, just like the knight is heading toward the past. So what about the illusion does he want to keep, maybe? That might be one way to look at this guy. So he could be the one that he could represent the forces that are trying to keep their own truth, what they want the truth to be, so the one that's governing and promoting and invoking the deception that's been happening. Or it's telling, the other way to look at this card is when you're in the process of moving past the deception and breaking through all of it and understanding that, hey, there's some other truth going on here, then you can use the analytical attitude of the King of Swords to understand, and the logicalness of this man, to understand a little more, to pursue the truth from that kind of a perspective, not necessarily an intuitive perspective, but to reason things out and to analyze them and be logical about it and to push through all the deception where, you if it's somebody you think is not being honest with you, you can say things like, well, okay, but you said this before and now you're saying this now, so which is it? So you're analyzing what the whole message has been all this time. And that's the thing, when you look at swords, this could have to do again with perception, messaging. I think when I hear those things, messaging, I think politics, but it could be political. It could be that there's some nonsense that, some political party wants you to buy into. It could be something like that type of messaging, that type of spin. So it's like they want to keep you looking in this direction and say, oh, there's the problem, but when it's really them, that's the problem. It's like, look over there, but don't look at me, right? That's kind of the feeling that I have with that. And so if everything is pointed toward the past, then it's that past illusion that they want to preserve. You see what I'm saying? But we know from both Sewillow and Fortuna Minor that that's not possible anymore. That the light is coming in, that clarity is coming in, that we're going to know the truth. And it's probably going to come out in a series of progressive revelations. Okay, so whatever the king wants to do, if he's the force that's wanting to keep the truth on his terms, which is to deceive everyone, then that's not going to happen. But if we're talking about the qualities of this man, then maybe we're looking at the ability to be logical and clever about things and to try to think outside the box a little bit. It's all the you have got to do some mental work right now instead of more intuition. You want to actually take a look very critically at what was said, what was done, what was happening. And now that you know it was nonsense, well, then let's take a look at it. Where did let's look at the components. Just how deep does this go? In other words, how deep does the deception go? And the only way that you know that is, I think, is because we have Sewillow as such a strong rune of the will, rune of the sun, rune for today on the as above side. We have to understand the overall picture of what's going on. And I think that maybe let's just keep in mind on the King of Swords, let's look at him two different ways. We'll kind of split it and look at it maybe as the source of the deception, or the ability to reason through it and use logic and analysis and all of that to figure out, okay, what really happened. What were they really trying to pull off here? Because you tell people one thing and if you believe, and if the people believe that person, but it's all a bunch of nonsense, well, that eventually it's going to come out. You're not going to labor under that delusion, the other imposed delusion for forever. It's going to eventually, the truth's going to will out, basically. And so that's kind of where I think I see the Knight of Swords and the King of Swords. That's the dynamic that's working there. Okay. But when all is said and done, the sun is returned, as you see by the golden sky. You see in the Two of Wands is the fire element, and again, Sewillow is a rune of the sun, so fire element. And this is the clarity. You've made a decision in the Two. He's looking actually on the opposite direction, trying to figure out. He's gone through a doorway, but trying to figure out, he's got a globe in his hand, where are my new opportunities coming from? Where am I going to go next? Where am I going to seek new opportunities out there in the world, make my way, make a living? I've got the globe in my hand, so anything's possible, right? So the decision was made in the Two of where to go, and now you see in the bay here, even though this kind of yellowish water, it's still water, because you see the three boats. I think there's just three. A couple of them are smaller. One is a little bit bigger, but you got the two smaller boats here. And he stands up high, and he's gone through that doorway of the decision that he's made. about things. And now he's holding his staff on the other side of it. Before you saw he was holding one staff, and well, but here he's gone through the doorway and he's waiting for whatever decision he made to manifest. And so, and it's manifesting in the light of the sun. So this is all done in full clarity. There might have been some unknown factor in the two when he's making the decision, about what he wants to do. But now, with Sewillow and Fortuna Minor, and with the knight and the king, we're cutting through deception. We're cutting through all of the illusion that was surrounding us, and now we understand what the true picture is. And when we understand that, 3 is also a number of harmony. Think the 3 of Cups, where the 3 women are dancing together, and there you have all of the food around them, the harvest, all of that around them, and they're dancing, holding their cups high. There's an alignment there between the 3 of them. They're in harmony together. 3 is also a number of communication and interaction. So again, we're communicating out what the truth actually is, and we're waiting for something new to manifest here. So it tells me that out of the rubble that gets created of when you find out that you've been deceived, because things break down for a little bit, don't they? They get a little weird, and it's like, boy, who do I trust now? Because I really trusted this person or these people or what have you, and now I know that I can't do that. That in fact they were just trying to deceive me to promote their own agenda or what have you. There's a level of unknown to what the future is, but at least you're seeing things clearly and in harmony with other people that were also deceived, you see. And so now you can all come together and say, all right, where do we go now? What's going to manifest? What can we manifest? Because with Sewillow being the rune of the will, there's an element there of not waiting for something to manifest. It's manifesting something on your own, but in full clarity, in the light of higher awareness, you see. So I think that if we want to look at this as, whether it's an individual reading that's just generalized, where you're cutting through some deception and some clarities coming in for you, or you want to turn it into a new moon reading here, I suspect that over the next, 3 weeks, whatever, 3.5 weeks, till the next new moon, I think that you're looking at, well, it's actually 28 days, so it's almost 4 weeks. But you're looking at doing it with clarity, and it seems to me that the clarity is going to come in whether anyone wants it to or not. So it tells me that there's going to be some things that we find out about over the next few weeks, and we're not going to have any choice but to try to figure it all out and understand it in some way. Is how did this person get so much power, for example, that they were able to deceive me in such a profound way? What power of my own did I give away to somebody? Or if it's not something, if you're just part of the general, it's just a general fallout of something like that it's somebody who sought to deceive a whole bunch of people, and that's where politics came into my head at that moment. It's like, okay, what are they doing? Well, I think we see a lot of what they're doing, and what's being done about it, and the revelations that are coming out. We may start to see that over the next few weeks as to who did what's going to happen to them, and all of that. And that's a really important thing. Sewillow is a very profound rune, and so it seems bigger than just the individual. But each individual is affected by everything that's going on. So it's kind of on both levels, collective and individual, if it's something like that. But either way, even if it's something in your personal life where you've felt like something isn't right, and now you're starting to understand what that is. You want to pursue that quest of understanding where you really get to the bottom and you demand answers. You demand the truth. And then when all is said and done, you can start looking forward to a different type of a future. A different type of a future where that's not clouded by delusion or clouded by illusion or deception, where you now know where you're going and you know what you need to do about this. And whether it's changing up your perceptions about things, your beliefs, and that's tough, because there are things you hold dear, right? Things that you really believe. And if suddenly it's upended and it's like, oh, well, I can't believe any of that anymore. Well, now you have this exciting moment where you can decide, okay, well, then what is true? And where do I go from here? And because I've stepped through a doorway and I can't turn back. I can't accept this level of deception in my life any longer. That's what this really feels like to me. So this is a time of not only listening and analyzing, but also expecting, and expecting more of people or more of someone or more of, the powers that be in our country or whatever, wherever this falls for you, where you have to expect better. You have to demand better. So there's an active principle about all of this that needs to happen. When you look at the geomancy runes, you put the 4 elemental runes in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. And then if, depending on whether it's 1 dot or 2 dots, 1 dot is an active principle. 2 dots is passive. And so with Fortuna Minor, you're looking at fire and air that are active principles here, and earth and water that are passive. Well, what it's saying is that you're going to invoke success. You're going to invoke an outcome of some kind. And it's going to be with the will and with the intellect. And I think that you're looking here at the same type of resonance. You've got two swords cards, which are again is elemental air, and 1 wands, which is elemental fire. And so these are things that you need to just not sit back and be passive about. These are whatever this is representing for you today. It needs to be something that you take an active role in discovering and demanding the truth and demanding that you're going to go a new direction now. I can't trust you, or I can't trust this idea, or I can't trust this group, or whatever. I need to know I can't trust these people to be honest with me, basically. They have their own agenda, they want what they want, and they're using me to get that. Right? My support, my whatever, my belief in them to get what they want. And it's deceptive. It's never going to be anything that's going to be positive for anybody that is supporting them. You see what I'm saying? It's that kind of dichotomy. And so, but at the end of the day, you find harmony with the 3 of wands, where you're stepping through a doorway, likely with other people, into something new, but it's exciting because now you don't have the heavy baggage of all the lies and the deception pulling you down and keeping you from moving forward. See, they want to move forward. They don't want the rest of you to move forward. It's that kind of relationship. Anytime you're dealing with somebody who's keeping things from others, this is the something is off, something isn't right, but for whatever reason you haven't really challenged them on it, and then sometimes even when you do, the pushback is so great and so brutal that you just kind of stand there going, okay, well, let's wait for a little more information. Then maybe you back down completely, or maybe you're like me and you're just like, oh, this is interesting. Why is the pushback so great here? What's really going on here? So then I sit back and I watch and I observe and I see where, is there going to be anything that's going to tell me something else? So but I think that honestly, I think that right now we're in a period collectively where there's a lot of dishonesty by the powers that be, and we're finding out the truth. And we need to understand what the whole truth is, not blame people that had nothing to do with it. But but the people who did are saying, oh, it's their fault. No, it's not. And so it's one of those moments where you really have to search for clarity here, because it's there. you just have to analyze. You have to think a little bit. You got to question things. You've got to not just take for granted what it is someone says for you as gospel, because it may not be, and very likely isn't. I mean, at least the both swords cards in the court here are suggesting that it's not. And you have to take an act. It's almost like active measures. You know, you have to be actively trying to push through the deception and not allow them to put you back in the place of their choosing, which is believing the lies that are coming out of their mouths. So, anyhow. Big thing to do on a new moon reading, and also for a Monday, but again, this is not just going to be over the next couple of days. This is going to be for the next lunar month, so you've got, you know, time yet. You'll have the full moon in a couple of weeks, and let's see what day that's on exactly. Let me pull up my spreadsheet here. Full moon is going to be, oh, it's going to be full on March 7th. And so basically, I'm looking at my spreadsheet that I do for the stuff I do on the blog. I create a spreadsheet when I do the esoteric forecast, and I do this daily correspondences for work and magic. I work off of a spreadsheet that I create. Every time there's a new month, I create the new spreadsheet. And although I've kind of been doing it in a little bit progressive fashion here, I think I went through the second week or something, or I think I'm into the third week of March now. I haven't done that one yet, but all of that information helps me when I'm doing the interpretations for the esoteric forecast, and then the other stuff is just useful when you're trying to put together a spell and you want to have all the corresponding astrological energies there. And also, you know, what the right crystals, what the right candles, what the right, you know, whatever to use, you know, to shore up that energy of the working. So that's kind of what that thing's about. But the esoteric forecast, you know, that's a little bit different. That looks at each governing planet for each day of the week and what's going to be the whole week effect of that planet. And then there's a separate section that talks about just that particular day. So the Sunday would be, what's the sun look like? You know, what's the impact of the sun on everyone for the whole week? And then the second paragraph has some other stuff that I use, and it's, what is your day going to look like that day? And so that's what that reading's about. And you can find that. They're both up on all those readings are up on the blog. The tarot card of the week. In fact, I changed the, next week it'll be called Exploring Tarot. I used to call it that. I don't know why I switched to tarot card of the week, but I did. Because I hadn't done it in a while, I guess. And so I changed it to that. Well, now I'm going back to saying Exploring Tarot, and then it's just be the card of the week to think about. So all that goes up on Sunday morning, early in the midnight hour, early hours of the new day of Sunday, and so those things are already up on the blog over there at Stepping Aside. If you want to look at that, it's also up on Patreon. I don't do the esoteric forecast over on Substack, but I may at some point. I may put that up over there. But there's things up on all of it, and wherever you follow me, and so wherever you want to read it. It's also in the newsletter that goes out on Saturday. So if you want it super early, then you can, on Saturday, then you can sign up for the newsletter. It's just, you can unsubscribe at any time. It's fine. But anyway, it's also there. And that went out Saturday around, I think I sent it out around 10:30 or so. That's what the whole spreadsheet thing is about. I just find it easier to have things all in one spot, and I can look at it and see the relationships between things. And it just, you know, I'm a Libran, so it's just what we do. Anyway, when we used to have phone books, you know, I used to tab the phone book because it used to be a whole area here, you know, and so I would tab the different cities, so I knew where I was looking for something. But so yeah, it's just what I do. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'd love you to click subscribe if you haven't. If this is your first time here, welcome. Usually I don't do a reading that's specific for one thing, which, you know, on a new moon it's really not that specific, but setting your intentions, I think, is a good thing, and to understand what the truth of something is, that you can never go wrong with that, right? But again, you can look at this, if you don't want to look at it that way, you can just look at it as an individual reading where you need some clarity in your life, and you're going to have to actively pursue that. So anyway, If you've been here before, thanks for coming back. I appreciate it. And, we'll talk again Thursday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.